Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another weekend workshop. It's great to have you joining us today. And you're in for a great session today on growing your business with authentic marketing. We were just saying that this is a topic that affects every single business because we all are either looking to grow and have questions around it, or we are growing and we want to make sure that we're growing in the right way. So Cheyenne O'Driscoll is here today from S.P.A.R.K Marketing. We're so thrilled to have her with us. She also is a weekend client. If you haven't met her, you'll find out about her in just a moment. For those I haven't met yet, my name is Carrie Ramsey, and I am the project manager for the Weekend Project, which is led by Queen's University. And over the last almost 4 years now, we've served more than 1,500 women entrepreneurs from the greater Kingston region, and it has been such a thrill to work with you all. It's always great to see familiar faces back on the workshops. But if this is your very first time, welcome to you as well. I hope that this will not be your last workshop or interaction with the Weekend Project. So why don't we take a moment, as we always like to do, to allow you a moment to connect in the Zoom chat. I would love for you to share where you're connecting from in the world. Perhaps you would like to share what your business is, as well as if you have a link to share, you can do that. We would love to find out a little bit more about you. It never fails to amaze me the collaborations and connections that happen in the Zoom chat. While these workshops are going, I see people setting up coffee dates and things, and this is for you. This is why this has been created. So please take advantage of that Zoom chat and engage as you would like to. There will be a chance to ask some questions as well during today's workshop. Cheyenne has built in some pauses, so watch for those as well. As you're taking a moment to introduce yourselves in the Zoom chat, I'll acknowledge that Queen's University is situated on the ancestral territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples. And as I was thinking about the land acknowledgement today and how it relates to the content of today's workshop, I was thinking about this idea of growth mindset versus greed mindset, because we talk about growth mindset a lot in the weekend community. But when we think about Indigenous philosophies and teachings around the dish with one spoon, the idea is that there is one dish, there is one spoon, and we are sharing that together. So not only does that, of course, relate to natural resources, which are finite, but I think it also refers to this idea of sharing resources like we're doing today. Cheyenne is showing up. She is sharing from her expertise and her zone of genius. And this is the spirit of the weekend community. And I love that when I think about that dish with one spoon, at least as a white settler and my interpretation and understanding about that philosophy, that this is the idea that, hey, there is one dish, there is one spoon, we're in this together. And it reminds me of the importance of community, and in particular today, you folks as a part of the weekend community. So I hope that you are definitely connecting in the Zoom chat, and I see that blowing up out down there. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. Welcome. It's great to have you. So I know that I'm not the main attraction. So let me pass the microphone over to Cheyenne. She is going to talk to us today about growing our business with authentic marketing. There's no one better to speak to us on this topic. Cheyenne, over to you. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, okay, where to start? First, thank you, everybody. This is my first workshop, so I'll be completely authentic and genuine. I'm nervous. It's a little intimidating, but I'm really excited to share. Carrie, what you said there really resonates with me. That's very much how I approach life in general. I've actually spent some time living in Indigenous communities up in Yellowknife, so it really impacted the way I saw the world, and it's very much how I do business. It's very much from that same point of view. So today we are going to talk about marketing, but what I'm really going to do today with you guys is I'm going to invite you into my love for marketing and into my marketing mindset as a professional marketer, because there's a lot of ick around marketing and there's a lot of confusion and overwhelm. And I want to clear that up for you and give you a framework that you can follow, so marketing becomes something that you get excited to do and you feel really confident in and really empowered in. So that's what we're going to do here today. So when I designed this workshop, who I really had in mind is the weekend community. As Carrie mentioned, I'm a client. I facilitate a mastermind. I am who I am today because of this community. It's been a huge part of my personal and business growth. And I'm excited to help members of the community who aren't quite at the stage in business where they can really afford to contract out a lot of their marketing, and you're wearing that marketing hat yourself. So that's what this is for today. And that's the early stage businesses. You're in business 1 to 3 years or so, or maybe 5 years, depending on how full-time you've been doing your business. You're probably doing your own website, you're doing your own social media, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to give you frameworks and paradigms today so you can understand how to choose where to focus your marketing efforts, and you can really start getting some solid ROI on that. Brief talk about me. I'm Cheyenne from S.P.A.R.K Marketing. I'm a marketing consultant. And before I went into business, I had a background in classical French cuisine. I have a diploma in culinary management, and I was in the trades. I was in a very different world. And then after that, I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. So when I decided I'm going to go into marketing and I'm going to be a business person, it was like a complete fish out of water. So I had to learn all of this to be able to get where I am today. And I'm also a single mom of 3. So my business had to work. I had to make this happen, which is why I got really serious in it. But even more than doing it for myself, I've worked with over 100 local businesses and entrepreneurs, and from every stage, from the very beginning to well-established decades in. I've seen the common threads and I see the framework behind it. So business is not as confusing as we feel it is. There's really common principles and frameworks to follow, and that's what we're going to talk about here today. Yeah, so let's go to the next slide. Here's my framework. So a lot of my analogies are going to be around food because of my culinary background. And when I think about this, I think about that pilot light on a gas stove or a gas range. And sometimes in business and marketing, we can get overwhelmed, we can get burnt out. And if we always pull back to this S.P.A.R.K framework, that helps us reignite. That's always there waiting for us. And here's the 5 parts to it. The first one is strategic planning. This is going to help you feel confident in which marketing activities are worth focusing on. So no more throwing spaghetti at the wall and feeling like you're chasing shiny objects. And then we have proactive scheduling, which is going to help you reduce stress. And it's going to take out the confusion by you have dedicated time to your marketing work. You know when it's going to get done. Authenticity, which is really about authentic branding and authentic communication. This will help you build a brand and build marketing that feels good to you and to your target audience and gets your business noticed. People notice authenticity. It really stands out. And then the next one is relational selling. This is going to help you get rid of the ick of sales and marketing. I actually had a really huge aversion myself to marketing. I was very anti-consumerist for a long time. So the fact that I end up as a marketer is really ironic. But it's because you can switch it and you can recognize that this is about building genuine relationships. It's not about pushing your sales on people. And we're going to get into that. And then the last one is key actions. And this is how you really move the needle for your business and you really make sure that you're seeing the ROI that you need. So you're not just guessing, you're not just keeping it in your head, you're actually moving things forward. And that's what matters in business, right? We're not just here to learn, we're here to do. And that's where the key actions come in. So this is another analogy. We're going to talk about our first stage here, which is strategic planning and why it's like planning a dinner party. Again, back to the food analogies. So there's 2 ways we can plan a dinner party. We can really, tell our friends, hey, friends and family, I'm going to do this dinner party on Saturday. Please come over. And then we can go around town. We can go to a couple of bakeries, some vendors or caterers or restaurants and be like, okay, I need a chicken dish. I need a potato dish. I need a dessert. And they give you their best stuff and they're really good at what they do. And you go home and you set it out on the table and you have your friends come over, and the potato dish is really nice, but it's got this like really warm Indonesian spice palette, and the chicken's really good, but it's really, really herby and it doesn't quite go with the Indonesian spices. And the dessert is lovely, but it's a really light dessert that gets lost in that intense palette. And your friends are like, well, these were all really nice, but I'm kind of confused and I'm not really sure what's happening. It was an okay experience. Or you can approach it with someone who has the vision in mind, and you can be the chef or the cook, and you can say, okay, we're getting to late November. People are starting already to get stressed with the holiday hustle. We really want something warm and comforting. My friends would really enjoy that. So you decide, I'm going to make a chicken pot pie, or I know a bakery down the road or a restaurant down the road that makes an incredible chicken pot pie with all butter crust. So I'm going to bring that into my dinner. And then you pick out a dessert that goes really well with that, and you pair everything really nicely, and you put on your fireplace and you invite your friends over, and they're like, this is exactly what I needed right now. I feel so understood. I feel like this is the place for me. Your marketing can be done in the same 2 ways, right? So you can go to a bunch of different consultants or agencies, you can have your website done, you can take a suggestion for how to do your social media, hop on Instagram, and all of those things work individually, and they're probably really good at what they do, but they're not necessarily cohesive. So if you're laying it out that way, quite often your audience isn't feeling comfortable. They're not feeling really seen because you're not putting the intentionality behind it, and you don't really understand how to put it together. So this is really how marketing is supposed to work. Down at the very end here, we have the dark green arrow, and that's marketing activity. Often when we're trying to decide how we're going to market, that's where we start. We're like, okay, I'm going to do TikTok or I'm going to do social media. And that's a marketing activity. But really, when a professional marketer sits down and looks at what kind of marketing to do for a business, they start all the way back here and they figure out what stage of business is this business at. And then that leads us to what marketing goal or what business goal, sorry, are we working on for this business? And then we finally get to marketing. Now, what marketing goal do we need to support that business goal? And then we get to the marketing strategy, which is how am I going to execute that marketing goal? And only then do we get to talking about specific marketing activities. That's when we start deciding, are we going to be posting on Facebook? Are we going to be posting on TikTok? And this is a piece that quite often, if you're doing the dinner party or the marketing in the first way, you just know you need a chicken dish. You just know you need social media. And you're not really taking into account all of these steps that ideally come before it. So I'm going to give you 3 different business stages and some examples of how this plays out. When we're talking business stages, I've broken it down to really simplify it for us because that's all we really need to follow. And we have a start stage, which is that very beginning, 1 to 3, 1 to 5 years, where we're just getting started. And we're like, I have a business. This is what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to sell. And then we have a survival stage. And this is, I have a business and now it's making sales and I know it can work, but it's still stressful. I'm not quite bringing in what I need to bring in. And then we have a success stage, which is that stage we all envision in our heads when we're talking business and we're planning out our big dreams. And that's where our business is solid. It consistently brings in revenue. We can pay ourselves, we can pay our staff. Maybe we're thinking about growing. So that's that final third stage. And we're going to go through all 3 of those in the next couple of slides. So start stage. And this is where a lot of us are, especially in the weekend community. And for many of us, we're serial entrepreneurs. So maybe we've been in this stage a couple of times over. And when we're in this very start stage of business, our goal is always to generate sales. If you've already decided what you're selling and what product or service you're going to offer, now you need to sell it. You need to get that feedback. And it doesn't mean it has to stay there. It ideally shouldn't stay there. We should really be reviewing and adjusting our product or service that we're offering as we get feedback, and that's developing market fit. But the first goal is always sales, right? You have to get people buying this so you have a viable business. And the marketing goal that supports that is to build awareness. If people don't know that you have a business, you don't have sales. First, you have to get the awareness out into your immediate network and people around you that you have something to offer and maybe it's a fit for them. And your marketing strategy to build awareness at this beginning stage is called a go-to-market strategy. And there's a bunch of different ways you can do that. And in order to decide which strategy works for you, you really want to look at what resources you have as a business owner. And in a large business, when we look at that, we start looking at who's on the team. We look at what kind of budget we have. In a small business, a solopreneurship or a local business, it's possibly a team of 1. So you want to start looking at the resources you have personally. What kind of content do you naturally like to create? Are you good at video? Are you good at writing? So that's the resources that you use to determine your strategy. Do you have some grants you can access? How do you plug those in? And then we get to the marketing activity. That's when you finally realize, okay, here's how I'm going to execute it. And networking tends to be one of the most common ones that we all start with, because we are looking at usually low financial resources to work with. We're DIYing. It's really our own time and energy that we're going to pour into this. So networking virtually and online will be one of the key parts. But the trick with this is that instead of just deciding from the get-go, okay, I'm going to network, because you build a strategy and goals, you decide, I'm going to network, but this networking has to execute my strategy. So if your go-to-market strategy is that you really want to create awareness in a certain market segment, then your networking, where you decide to network can be selected based on, does this execute my strategy? So you get a bit of a right to say no. Instead of feeling like you have to say yes to all the networking opportunities, you're able to become discerning on whether, does this really support my business goal? Does this really fit into my marketing strategy? And there's a lot of power in that. So it looks like a lot of extra steps, but what it really gives you at the end is a lot of empowerment and a lot of discernment. And you get to build some business boundaries, which is something we're going to talk about a little later. And I know us ladies and boundaries are something that we all benefit from. So second stage, to give you guys another example, I'm going to take a sip of water. This is where we've established profitability. Well, we're working on establishing profitability, but we're like, okay, I'm a business, people are buying from me, now I got to survive. Now I have to make sure there's enough money coming in that this business is viable. And eventually I want to be able to pay myself. So your business goal is to establish profitability. This is where you get a sense of what your overhead is going to be, what your running costs are, and then you start to really dig into your numbers. And one of the marketing goals you can use to support that business goal, and there's multiple. So over the years, you want to kind of pick a marketing goal and then you build on that goal. It doesn't mean that's all you work on. It means you build it and then you're able to work on the next one after you've built that and maintained it. So one of the first ones that's really good to work on here is going to be brand recognition. So in the previous stage, we just wanted people to be aware of us. Now we want to build some brand recognition. We want people to know what our business is about, what values we hold, what we're here for. We want people to have an understanding of the place we sit in the market. And in order to do this, rather than having to go out and say all this yourself constantly, this is where the marketing strategy we're going to leverage will be something like hiring out to get your visual branding done and your brand positioning. If you can do this really well, it will speak to your brand. It will tell the world what your brand is without you having to do it. The visuals you use, the colors and fonts you use, the messaging and copy that you're using will establish that for you. And then more people will see who you are and they'll recognize you. And the more of the market that recognizes you, the more people you can get buying from you. So that helps push that profitability goal. And now we get to the marketing activity all the way at the end again. And this is where social media marketing can come in really, really well. If you have already developed a solid brand to work with and you have your graphics in alignment with that brand, you're using the same colors, you're using the same fonts, you're using the same style of graphics. You don't want to use something like illustrations and photos and this and this and this. You want to narrow it down so that when something is coming through your audience's feed, they immediately like, oh yeah, okay, that's this business's stuff, because visual recognition on social media is really important. So that's how you get brand recognition, is visual recognition through your visual branding. It all kind of feeds into each other, which is one of the reasons why it's really important to look at it in a way where we're stacking it, as opposed to just grabbing that one piece and getting angry or frustrated that this social media marketing is just not working. If it's not working, it's probably because you haven't stacked those other pieces behind it. And our final stage, which is the really fun one, this is the success stage, but new level, new devil, right? So even though it says success, it does mean that even psychologically now you're going to move into a new identity as a business owner, and it's going to have, it's going to create some reshuffling that you have to do and some limiting beliefs that you have to face. But it's a fun one to be at because now you have money to work with, as opposed to having to leverage your own time and your own energy. This is when you really get to move out of working in the business and you really get to work on the business. You get to move into that position. And this is the problem with this, the challenge with this stage is now making sure you can trust who you're working with. This is a stage that I get a lot of my clients from because they have money to work with, or even the previous one when they're investing. But it becomes really crucial that you know that the people you're working with can be true to your values and true to your brand. Otherwise, as you move out of your business, your business loses what made it so good and what brought people in. So our goal at this stage is going to be to increase profit we can decide we're good and we can maintain, but as entrepreneurs, we love creating, right? Like we love growing and moving to the next thing. So one of the ways we can do that in a marketing goal is to decide on what market we want to expand into next. It's a really fun thing when we develop a business and we're serving this small market segment, and we niche down and we're really able to get to know that market and establish our brand in that market. It's really fun then when you're like, okay, what other adjacent markets can I work with? And it becomes a really fun game because you've done it once and now you're like, okay, I get to create this, I get to create something new, and your impact gets to spread. So it's really nice to be able to do that. A lot of the times I find when we create something, our first market is someone who's already enthusiastic about the same thing we're enthusiastic about. And the next market we get to expand into is people who are maybe like curious about it, and we get to really bring them into the journey, which is very fulfilling. And when we move to the strategy around this is where we start to talk about new product and service development, which is actually a part of marketing. A lot of people don't recognize marketing is a really huge part of business. And even to the point of what product or service you want to develop next, it becomes a marketing strategy because you tune into your market, you get market research, you start to really understand what's happening, and then you have a feel for what is this market asking for, that there's a gap. No one's filling that yet. And that's where you can develop a new product or service. And this is where we start to get to something like paid advertisements. I hear so many people get frustrated because they have spent good money on paid advertisements, but they've got nothing out of it. And the reason is because it's not a match for the business stage they're at. And they don't have something like brand recognition already, or they don't have even visual branding or brand positioning in place. If you throw out a paid advertisement, it doesn't matter if you put $5,000 behind it. You might reach a lot of eyeballs, but if you don't have that substance behind your brand to know that you're talking to the right people in the right way, you won't get ROI out of it, which is why it's something to really leverage once you get to this later stage in business where you have put in the other elements into play so that you're getting ROI out of it. You have that money to invest and you're seeing a return on it, rather than just throwing money away, right? Nobody needs to do that when we're in business and we're doing it on our own. So I'm going to give you guys some homework because, this is how we learn. And I want you guys to have something really tangible to walk away from. I don't want to just be a talking head. This is what I do. I do this for myself. I do this for my clients. So I want to see you guys do it too. I want you to identify what stage of business you're in, what your business goal is, and what marketing goal you need to have to support your business. I don't want you to look at marketing as, well, somebody told me I'm supposed to be doing social media. I want you to look at it in an individual to your business kind of way. I want you to really pay attention to what business stage you're in, and then decide from there how you're gonna move forward with your marketing. And I'll open it up to some questions if anybody has any. Carrie?
Yeah, feel free to drop a question in the Zoom chat. And I just want to clarify one thing, Cheyenne. This might be obvious to everyone, but you were just using examples there, like example goals for stage one and an example activity. So like for profitability, increasing profitability, which we just saw in the previous slide, you don't even have to do ads, right? Like you can, if you're like, oh my God, she's telling me, no, that's just an example. Maybe you're doing a signature event. Like who knows?
Yes.
Like maybe it's something entirely different. I just want to clarify, those are examples only. And Cheyenne's not saying, okay, so if you're at success level, you should be doing ads.
No, there's a million different options, which is why like it builds off of everything builds off. The stage is concrete, it's one, but then it just funnels out from there. And choosing your activity should be based on things like, what resources do you have? If you're doing paid ads, maybe you have somebody on your team at that point, or a really good contractor who's really good at media spend. And that's why you choose paid ads. You choose it based on what fits for your business. And there's millions of different ways, millions of different marketing activities. You can do guerrilla marketing. You could go paint something on a sidewalk. That's marketing, right? Like the more creative you get, the better even. So yeah, you're definitely not pigeonholed.
Awesome. Okay, I don't see any questions here. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds, but it very well. Oh, here we got one from, here they come. Never mind, spoke too soon. Okay, here we go. So Jade is asking, when we talk about business goal, are we talking reach?
Business goal? Are we talking reach?
Yeah.
Reach would be a marketing goal. So the impact of that marketing goal would probably be sales, right? Or greater where the more the market knows about you, but even that is a marketing goal. So the business goal is the impact the marketing has on your business itself. So the marketing goal is what you want your marketing to accomplish, but then it translates into a business goal based on what it actually moves forward in the business.
So if she wants to increase her sales as her actual business goal, I think you called it, then maybe she knows she has to extend her reach to get.
And there's multiple ways you can do it. You can figure out more offers for your current customers. You can extend your reach and bring in more of the same market. You can move over to a new market. There's a whole bunch of ways to support that business goal.
Great. Here's Hadriana is asking a question. She says that she's somewhere between survival and success, which I love. And I'm challenged to decide how much I should be spending on marketing. Is there some kind of guideline, like a percentage of my planned revenues or something else? And I know you have an answer to this one.
Yeah, we've talked about this a few times, which I love because clarity in marketing is so crucial. I'm not 100% sure exactly what the numbers are, but the general range, if you're B2C, it's 9 to 12% of your annual revenue. And if you're B2B, it's a little bit lower. It's like 5 to 7%. So there is a specific amount you're supposed to be using. The CDC has it up on their website, and that helps you boundary up your marketing, right?
That gives us a good range. So 8 to 12%. Yeah. Love that. So Amal is asking, our business is Marrakesh sweets and savories, making authentic Moroccan cookies and pastries. Yum. We're at the early stage. So can you please give ideas about marketing strategies and activities?
So part of that would be about what community you're in and what your community looks like, because I'll assume you're selling locally and you're not selling online. And it would be getting to know who else is serving a similar market to who you'll want to serve. If you have vendor fairs and that kind of stuff, and getting out into there, both so that the consumers get to know you and also that the other makers get to know you, because who you know will change everything about your business.
Yeah, and I think that's probably, it's the one-on-one consultation question, but she says they're selling online. But also I think that when it comes to food and beverage, it's like the only way to sell food is to get it in people's mouths, is my feel. Like, have a sample. Like, we've all been to Costco. Sorry, this is Cheyenne's show, but I love talking marketing too. Yeah, so
love it.
I was just hungry reading about that.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Helpful. Yeah,
online is a similar thing. So you just take that same mindset of where is your community hanging out and where are other people who are serving the same audience, and finding them online and starting to connect with them very organically and naturally.
Love it. That's all the questions for this section, I believe, for now.
Perfect. That's like right on time. Okay. Minimize myself. Okay. That was our homework. Great job. Okay. We are on to proactive scheduling. I have a lot of analogies because I like sharing things in analogies. So this sounds incredibly boring, and in a little bit it is, in a little way it is, but it's also really impactful. So when I think of marketing, I really think of it as the self-care of business. It falls under that same umbrella as admin and bookkeeping. It's not the fun stuff. It's not really why we went into business, but it's essential. It's just like self-care as a mom or as a woman. If you are not refilling your cup, you will have nothing to pour from. And if you're not generating leads and sales for your business will not have anything to keep serving people with. So for me, this is very much like going to the gym, which one of my clients is a gym client. So I use that a lot, but it's about building a habit. You cannot say, oh, I'm going to market, and then you post a couple times on social media and expect a result. Just like you can't go to the gym once or twice and be like, why am I not seeing these changes? Why am I not seeing the results? Marketing is compound interest for your business. When you consistently show up for it, both the posting and the execution level, that activity level, and the planning levels, that's when you start to see the return on investment. Just like going to the gym, when you commit to doing it for a year, and you make sure you have it slotted into your day, you proactively schedule, I go to the gym Fridays, Wednesdays, that type of thing. Marketing works the exact same way. So we're going to talk about a way to break this down so it's not overwhelming. And I also have a video of another weekend lady who uses this beautifully, because I really want to share with you guys that I have my opinions, and that's great, and I'm giving you advice. But what I want to show you is that this is not like a personal opinion. This is what I have seen works in business, not just for my business, but for the business of a lot of other people that have been at this a really long time. So I want you to hear their words, and I want you to see that these are best practices. These really help drive home business success for a lot of people. So, excuse me, when we're talking the benefits of proactive scheduling, we all kind of know cognitively, yeah, I know I should do that. Discipline is good, but it's easy to brush it off if we can't really internalize how much we get out of this. It's not a duty, it's really a gift we give to ourselves. And I am the least scheduled individual. I'm a creative in reality. My personality is very like flying off the handle. I love flowing, but proactively scheduling is what gives me the power to be a business person. So the first one is you have better management of your time and resources. If you start to proactively schedule, and this is a conversation that happens a lot in weekend groups, as women, our energy fluctuates a lot throughout the day, throughout the month. Like we have different energy levels. And if you can proactively start to schedule your work around that type of stuff, you can really start to get a lot of impact out of it, which leads kind of into the second one. But it means you're managing your time and resources better. And as a solopreneur or an entrepreneur or small business owner, it's really important that we are managing our time and resources well. We do not have extra to throw away. It's really important that we're working with it in an optimized way. Second benefit is executing marketing strategies efficiently. Strategies are great when they're in the head or on a Google Doc, but if we're not able to execute them, they have no value, right? Their value comes from the impact they give to our business. And when we proactively schedule, it means that we're really able to execute these things effectively and efficiently so that we're not wasting money. We're not doing wasting our time. So the third one, improved outcomes and higher ROI. And as much as I love being a creative person, at the end of the day, the ROI is everything. And when we're proactive about when we spend our time and making sure we're doing it, we're not leaking money that it's like, well, I paid for this to be done and then I never really used it because I didn't schedule it. So our ROI really improves when we do this. And number 4 is my favorite thing. I think I have to have a whole conversation around this. Setting business boundaries. A lot of us as women understand the power of learning to say no and how much that gives back to us. It applies the exact same when we're talking about business and marketing, especially because there's so many shiny objects to chase in marketing. When we are able to say, on this day, I do this, or at this time, I do this, or this is what I'm doing for marketing, it means it gives us permission to say no to all the other ideas that pop up. You say, no, this is what I've committed to. This is what I'm intentionally doing. And that sounds like a really great idea. And maybe I'll use it next time when I decide to proactively schedule myself. But right now, this is my boundary because I have committed to this for myself. So I will admit I made this very simple, and it's very similar to what I actually do for some clients who are heavily invested in their marketing. I do a little bit more, but if you can commit to this and dedicate yourself to this, I promise you within a year, the impact your marketing will have will be just so profound. You will be thanking me that you did this. I promise. It is not that much to do. You are busy doing other things. And I completely understand that from a personal perspective and from working with clients. So your marketing has to be done in a condensed manner. But this is that 80-20 principle. This is the 20% of marketing that you need to do to get the 80% of the result. This is all you need to do. Once a year, set aside time, and this will be a fairly substantial amount of time, to build an annual marketing plan. But it's not just building a plan. This is the time where you pull up and you get that 100-mile view. If anybody Getting Things Done by David Allen, this is where you really get that wide view of your marketing and your business, and you assess how things are going. You assess those long-term goals. You set the really long-term intentions, and you build out an annual marketing plan to help you carry that through. And then once a month, I'll tell you how long to do that. Actually, the annual marketing plan is something that I prefer to break it up over a couple of weeks. So you'd set one day aside or part of a day aside over 4 weeks or so that it has time to kind of marinate and you're not rushing it, because this will really provide a lot of value for the entire year coming. So over the course of 4 weeks, half a day, that type of thing would work. The next one, once a month, dedicate one day, one of your working days, not a whole day. You have other things you need to do with your time, but one of your working days each month to plan and set up your marketing activities. This is where batching content should be done. If you're posting on social media, you're writing your emails, you're writing your blogs, this is a really good time to sit down and batch up that content so that it can be one and done and you can schedule it out for the month. And then once a week, maybe 30 minutes, an hour, depending on how much of your strategy this is, check in on your marketing. Just pop on your social media page, make sure you're responding to comments, questions, answering any DMs, engaging with other businesses that are connected to yours, that type of thing. If you're looking at, if you do emails, checking your analytics, your open rates, really making sure you're taking in the feedback of your analytics so you have that. Marketing is really having a conversation with your audience. And in order to have that conversation, you don't want to just talk at them. You want to be taking in the feedback. And analytics, as boring as they say, as they sound, what they really are is the feedback mechanism. So if you see one post did really, really well over the last week, and it happens to be about this topic, that's telling you that your audience is lighting up around that topic and they appreciate that you're sharing something around that topic. Or if you have a blog post that got shared a whole bunch, same thing. So if you just take time once a week, schedule it in your calendar, make sure that you have dedicated that time once a week, you'll see a huge difference in your own perspective on your marketing because you'll start to see the value that it's producing. So next I have a little video. Carrie and I have tested this out, so we're hoping it works fine. If there's any problems, let us know. And this is by Sherry from Broadmind. She's part of the Weekend community. Her business supports people with mental health work mental health first aid. She's a lovely soul and she's the queen of proactive scheduling. When I started working with them, I was so impressed by how, and she works with a team of 4 or 5, I believe. So she's going to talk a little bit about her vision of why proactive scheduling works for her. So you guys can see that it's not just me saying this. There's a lot of other business people who are getting a lot of return on investment.
Hi, I'm Sherry Lachine, the founder and lead facilitator of Broadmind. Cheyenne and I were just chatting about proactive scheduling and how it's really important in my business. And there's a bunch of different ways proactive scheduling helps. And I had to sort of ask Cheyenne what that was so that we were on the same page. But one of the things that I like to do is making sure that anytime you have a meeting with a client or, internally with your team, that one of the last things you do, that's before you check out and see how everybody's doing. One of the last things you do is you make sure that you set the next meeting, right? Or you have a nice rhythm of meetings where it's the Monday morning check-in or, the Friday checkout, whatever that is. Being proactive about it also gives a sense of calm, for the whole team. They know when you're going to be meeting next. There's that. And then even being proactive with our scheduling on social media. I'm really fortunate to bring, a team together who are very curious and they learned a lot. And one of them learned that, yes, making sure that the heartbeat of our social media was very proactive. And that was trying to be on brand as much as possible, that we, had some review sessions and more. So that's some of the stuff that I know about proactive scheduling. Cheyenne, is there anything else you'd like your audience to know?
No, just really just explaining the value of it and why it does take time and energy, right? Like it's a commitment as a business owner, and maybe just speak a moment to why you feel it is worth it.
Yeah, so I think it's worth being proactive in your scheduling because it gives you peace of mind. There's not and it depends on what type of organizational mind you have. Some write lists, some use calendars really well, some have paper calendars, whatever it is. I do know that when you take it out of your mind and put it down on paper and create a little bit of a rhythm or a heartbeat, you're reducing your stress. And you also are doing something that I think we humans love, which is you're taking a next step. We love taking next steps. And sometimes it can be just little tiny ones. So yeah, I think that provides some value. Anything to reduce our stress and challenges.
stress and challenges. We have enough of that as a business owner. Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Sherry.
That's Sherry. She really hit on that note of stress. And as a business owner myself and a mom of 3, stress is not something we need more of. Proactive scheduling might sound like a little bit of extra work, but really the fact that it takes out our stress makes it 100% worth it. So we have some more homework just to get you guys going with this. If you are ready to really see the results of marketing, what I want you to do is go into your calendar and schedule these 3 marketing meetings with yourself, because the reality is, unless you're contracting this out, you are your marketer. You need to be doing this or you will not see the impact of marketing. You can't try to wiggle your way around it. If you want the impact of marketing, you need to put on your marketing hat and you want to proactively schedule that once a year. Set yourself a annual marketing plan meeting once a month. Set yourself a content creation monthly planning meeting, and once a week, set yourself that touch point meeting with your social media or whatever channel it is you're using to communicate with your audience. And questions and answers if anybody has any.
Great. So there have been a couple of questions in the chat. One was around the scheduling of social media, I think in particular. Do you have any tools that you can suggest? And I think the word affordable was asked also. Affordable tools for scheduling, let's say to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I think those are the major ones.
So I actually have like a dozen clients and I use the actual platforms. I don't use a tool because the platforms favor things that are scheduled within their own scheduling. And it's always the most seamless. It's the easiest way to go because it is completely integrated. And if you don't need to add overhead, do not add overhead. But speaking from how long I've been doing this, I've been actively doing this over 5 years. There's always something that happens because Meta and LinkedIn, their agenda is to have people engaged on their platform as much as possible. So they're constantly popping up new restrictions to outside third-party schedulers.
That's a really good point. And of course, the third-party schedulers often have costs attached to them. So yeah, so look within Facebook, and if you're stuck, you can always Google, like use the Google machine. And there's actual demonstrations on YouTube if you have the time to look at that. There was one other question from Patricia before I get to Hadriana's question. Patricia had asked earlier if she has a business, and I believe I had this correct, but she wants to know if she should have 1 or 2 Instagram accounts because she has 2 audiences. So what's your thoughts on that?
You can combine them. It depends on that strategy again, right? So this is a tactic. This is an activity level question. You really need to pull back into your business goals and your marketing goal and strategy. If you're trying to create overall brand awareness and your business is very closely tied to your personal brand, then 2 audience doesn't matter because what you're really doing is showcasing your personal brand. But if you have very segmented brands, then you would want 2 different channels. So it's really one of those things where you need to pull back and look at the deeper levels behind it.
Yeah, and I had mentioned that like we tend to niche, we love to niche down to one audience, right? Because it just makes all of our marketing so much easier. So the idea is if you have 2 audiences, you tend to still have a primary audience and a secondary. So, like tune that one Instagram account into the 80%, talk to them, and every now and then talk to that secondary. But if they're equal and they're 2 entirely different products that you're selling, then that's the call for 2 Instagram accounts. But if it's the same product, tweaking for 2 audiences.
It also goes to that resource question. So if you have 4 people who are willing to produce content, by all means, go with 2 channels. If you have 1 person who's already strapped, realistically, you're going to look at the 20/80 principle and you need to do 1 channel.
Absolutely. Okay, Hadriana's question is, what are some of the things we should be looking at for that annual planning meeting? I'm not sure I have enough for half a day's worth of planning. So what should she do in that half day when she's out enjoying maybe a little retreat or something and her mind is...
So when we look at our annual marketing plan, it's a really good time to not just develop the document. It's a good time to pull back and review the last year. Really pull up your analytics and really tap into your business numbers and get the big picture of what has been happening in your business. And you can spend more than half of your time doing that. and then pulling into your industry and making sure you've got your mind wrapped around the overall environment that you're operating in, pulling into your target market, because things change a lot in a year. We're in a bit of a recession right now. So really understanding how that's impacting your target market, using most of that time to ground yourself into the reality and the bigger picture of your business, and then moving into the document really helps make sure that what you're doing for the next year is really attuned. And then you want to talk about stuff like your marketing mix. How are you, what channels are you using? What are you going to build over the next year?
Yeah, good advice. Deanna is saying within photography, because she's a photographer, there is art versus branding and portrait type of photography, right? So how would that work? The audiences overlap. There's two products, but it's the same skill, the same service in a way.
It depends. Are you talking like, so there's multiple layers to this as well, right? Is it branding? Are we talking what type of social media channels to use? This again goes to what is your business goal and what is your marketing goal? If it's you want to really create a strong, high value, high ticket positioning, then you will take in the components that you need for that, and worrying less about what's happening with everybody else and focusing more on what am I creating. I like to see it as, rather than a problem focus, you're a creation focus, as opposed to seeing the potential pitfalls. Really focus on what outcome do I want in a year, and what pieces do I need to pull in? What pieces are relevant? Do I need to create that outcome in a year?
Yeah, and you just sparked a thought, Cheyenne. When Deanna's looking at, let's say, doing portraits for professionals, then she should be targeting them through LinkedIn, right? Because that's where professionals are. They're not necessarily on Instagram. It's small business owners on Instagram, and we love them and we are them, but that might not be the place to sell high-end portrait packages, right? So again, to your point, back to actually Patricia's question about the one Instagram account or two. Maybe your Instagram account is for one audience because that's where they are, but you have to know your audiences to know where to go. Yeah, I love that. That just sparked.
You have to know your audience, and you have to know where you want to go. You
Exactly.
can serve any of those audiences. The question is, what are you building with your business?
Yes. Okay. I'm just looking to see if we missed any questions. I don't believe so. We talked about affordable scheduling tools. Yeah, I think we covered them all. We can continue.
Perfect.
Oh, one more. Stacy, you just got in there under the wire. When you're creating your plan, what's the time frame?
For creating the plan itself, or for the length of the plan?
So for the
I was thinking the length of the plan, Cheyenne, because I love what you just said in terms of what outcome do I want to have in a year. So when you're thinking about your planning, are you doing it for a year? Are you doing it for longer? Like what's your thought about that?
At this stage, I think a year is a really good bite to take. When you get further along, you can do larger plans, but a year and then segmenting it down a little bit into quarters is the time frame to really look at the beginning stages.
Okay, that's all the questions on scheduling for now.
This is fun. Okay, let's move on. Authenticity, the keynote of this workshop. Clearly my value is hugely into authenticity, but even beyond my personal value, this is what the market wants right now. And I'm going to let you guys know why. And we're going to talk about why it's like choosing your outfit in the morning. Love these. These are so fun, my little analogies. So let's say you're getting up in the morning and you have a networking event you're going to because you're at stage one, and that's the tactic you've decided to operate with. You can decide on, okay, there's going to be a lot of business people there. I want to make sure they really see me as professional. I have this old suit blazer in the back of my closet. It's kind of dark. It's kind of dingy. It's a little tight, but I really want to make sure people get the right impression of me and they see me as professional so that they'll buy from me. So you show up, you're in your professional outfit and you're talking to people, and the type of feeling they get is like there's a wall there. They're like, they want to get to know you, but you've got, like you're trying really hard to be a certain type of person that is what they expect you to be. And then the alternative is we get up in the morning. We're like, okay, I have this networking event. I want to make sure, I'm looking put together. I'm looking groomed. There's this dress that I absolutely love. It's got a little bit of the color that makes me feel like me. It's appropriate for the occasion. I'm going to go in with that. And you walk in and people talk to you and they're able to connect to who you actually are because you're embodying that version of yourself. You're not trying to be what you think is appropriate for the situation. You're being the version of you that belongs in that situation. And this is very much like how we need to do our marketing. A lot of the times we get a little overwhelmed because we're trying to pick the right fonts. We're trying to pick the right thing. We're trying to do it the right way. We're trying to really control how the audience perceives us and to fit into the mold and the prototype that we assume will make them want to buy from us. But the truth is, they hit that same wall. An audience senses when things are a bit contrived, when you're trying to project and you're wearing a persona. They see it from a business the same as they see it from you in a person. When you instead show up authentically in your marketing and in your communication as an expression of who your business is and what it's here to do, it allows the right people to connect to you. There's no wall there. There's just a genuine expression. And so that means the right audience who is going to be a fit can actually connect. If you don't do that, you lose that ability for them to connect to you. Simon Sinek is just incredible. And this is exactly what I'm talking about right now. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply proves what you believe. If you're not being authentic, they can't connect with why you do it or what you believe. If you're really trying to put on an image, they're not getting those pieces that they need to connect with, which means that they can't buy from you because they're not sensing the authenticity behind it. So here's one the ways that we embody that authenticity on a tactical level. You really want to get into your brand's core values. And the little phone mock-up here is my client that I've had. And this is I've been with this client for 5 years. He took a gamble on me when I was brand spanking new. And it's been a really rewarding journey for both of us. And the journey that the business has gone on through our marketing work together has been from being a rundown gym that had seen former glory days. My mom actually used to work out there in the 90s, the neon and the aerobics. And it had been completely just not taken care of. And it had physically run down. The brand was just aged out. And it was at $5K a month revenue 5 years ago. And over the past 5 years through COVID and the shutdowns and everything else, we've brought it up to 30K a month. Like, marketing can make a huge impact. And this is in Trenton. There's not a huge market, right? Like, you can really do something substantial with your business when you follow this type of framework and approach. So what I want you to do is shift your focus to marketing as a means of expressing your brand's value and missions, not just a sales tool. The point of marketing is to help generate leads and to get you sales. But the way it does that is giving people something authentic to connect to, because that's why they buy. Here's the other ways that we're going to do this. Consistency. Just like if you go to 7 networking meetings and you see somebody every time, and one day they're like super outgoing and super extroverted, and the next day they're kind of sullen and introverted, and then the next day they're in a different mood and they're showing up in all of these different ways, it gets really hard to tell who they are and if they're your type of person. And it gets really hard to trust them, because we need consistency and reliability to psychologically develop trust for people. We need congruency. We need to have an understanding of who they are and what kind of values they embody. And this is one of the reasons why, when we are talking your social media, especially, is a really great example of it. It might seem kind of silly for people to be like, pick your brand colors, pick your brand fonts and stick with it. Like, well, aesthetics don't matter. That's just shallow. But it's a psychological thing where you are able to connect with somebody because they get to know you, and you have to be cognitive of how much is coming through a social media feed. It might look like a lot to you when you look at your little grid or your posts, but the reality of each one of yours is lost in 100 other ones. So your consistency across all brand touch points is really important. And you can accomplish that with your colors, your fonts, your style, and your tone. And that means the tone in your messaging. If your brand is built on positivity and encouragement, then you want to make sure you're being cognitive of keeping that consistent across all of your messaging. The other one is storytelling. And I know Carrie feels me on this one 100%. And to really share it, I'm actually going to share a story, and I'm going to show you guys what this means. So when we use storytelling to share your brand's journey, it starts to make it relatable and memorable. Focus on the story, not the features. This is another psychology of how we work, because in reality, a brand is a person. That's just how our minds see it. And we attribute value to stories. We attribute value to meanings, not to features. If you're getting on social media and saying like, look at my coffee cup, it holds this many 500 milliliters of coffee, that's a feature thing. Or it was made in that's a feature thing. This was my all-time favorite coffee cup. It's handmade, and I like handmade local things. And every morning I would get up and drink my coffee out of this very same cup. And it was my one moment of peace and quiet. And like, it was absolutely crucial to my sanity. And my kids knew that. And then one day I was just having a really hard day as it was. It was one of those days that just like, oh, I'm done. You win, universe. I'm done for now. And I hear a crash from the kitchen, and one of my kids had knocked it off of the counter. And I walked in and I looked at it and I just slumped, and I turned around and walked out. And when I had a little mommy moment for myself, I was like, okay. And my poor kids, they got together and they worked together and they picked up all the pieces they could find and they put it together with putty. And it was like, my heart melted. I came back and seeing, you hope your kids are taking in all these values that you try to teach them about being responsible and caring. And it's such an impactful moment for me. I keep this coffee mug. It holds so much value for me, not because of the feature. It doesn't hold coffee anymore. I keep this for years now. It's been by my desk because it now holds a story. And your products and services are the exact same way for your audience. The features will not create the value. The story is what will create the value. And that's where you have to be authentic. You have to invite them into the genuine story behind your business, behind your product or service, behind your experiences. That's where the storytelling becomes authenticity. More homework. I want you guys to create a really simple brand guide. When I work with businesses later down the road, we do something really extensive, and it's really fun being able to create brand positioning and all of that. I absolutely love it. I get to dig in and see who people are and what they're doing and extract that value and embody it in their brand for them. This is like a success stage where you now need to work more on your business than in your business. And that's what branding allows you to do. It allows me to go in and see, like, here's all of those incredible personality traits that you've been pouring into your business and has been resonating with your audience. And then I can build it into your brand so it's intentionally being conveyed without you needing to do it. But until you hit that point, if you can be super intentional and super conscious of your brand and the authenticity behind your brand, and you can take it out of your own mind and put it into paper and use it to follow so that you're creating consistency, that's where you can get the value of that same type of work so you can see the same type of results and impact. So I want you to create a really simple brand guide, decide on 2 to 3 core values, which the trick to this is that it's probably your core values. It's probably what prompted you to develop the product or service you did, because a lot of us do it for ourselves first. And then we're like, wait a minute, I could sell this. Other people want this too. Other people will benefit from this. So whatever it is that it was embodying a core value for you, that's probably one of your core values. I want you to pick 2 to 3 brand colors. You can Google, like color associations psychologically. Chances are it's going to be colors that you really enjoy again, because our first target audience is almost always ourselves. It's people who are very similar to us because we've developed a product or service based on our life stage and our challenges that we're facing and our values that we want to move forward with and the transformations that we're desiring. So our first target audience is going to be people who are very similar to us. So don't get hung up too much on the brand colors and the fonts. You can change this later down the road. You're not locked in. But if you can get intentional and put it into a brand guide now, it means you can harness the same impact that marketing gives you now, rather than being a little helter-skelter and people not really being sure what's going on social media, not being able to really recognize you. So make this for yourself. I do it on Canva. It's fun to play around on Canva. And then if you have a design on Canva with these in, every time you create a post, you can just load that design into that one and you can just drag all your colors, and you can create a brand kit even on Canva if it's easier. Okay, questions and answers?
Okay, so I'll work backwards. We got a couple here. Patricia's asking, how often should we be posting?
Yeah, the age-old question. It depends. It depends on your brand strategy. It depends on your resources. It depends on your market. If you're like, social media is my go-to-market strategy. This is how I'm going to reach people. You want to be posting pretty frequently. We are saturated with social media content. There's a lot out there. This is not like 5 years ago where you could post once a week and you'd be sane. So if you do want to use social media as your go-to-market strategy channel, because that makes sense, because you like posting on social media, or you have, a niece or somebody who's really good at it, go all in, right? Go every day, really engage. That is where people get to know you. If you're not a big social media person, or you've decided you'd rather network in person, or maybe you're a podcast person, then maybe social media is just to support your podcast awareness. It really depends on that going back a few levels and deciding on your goals and your strategies.
Yeah. And we know that the algorithm, the more someone the more you post, the better it is. Yeah. Like they want you to post 24/7, not realistic. So that's the best results. But do we have time for that? No, nobody has time for that. So set your own boundaries. Goes back also to what Cheyenne was talking about.
You also have to understand the algorithm has their own agenda.
Yes.
Right? They're a business. So they're trying to do things their way. And just because it's best practice doesn't mean it's best practice for your business. Exactly. You have to really be grounded in your own reality and not theirs.
Yeah. And Selena asked a question here. Selena, I don't know if you want to voice that question, but it was around what do you mean by marketing like our brand?
Yeah, so you kind of said like when somebody walks into an event or a meeting or something like that, kind of dressing to look like your marketing. And yeah, I kind of want to note on that and kind of if you could explain it a little further, because for me, I'm like comparing myself to my business and I'm like, do I look like my business? And yeah, it really made me think about it. So I don't know if you could add to it.
This is I love this whole world of networking and being your brand in person. Psychologically, we only have so many filters that we put people through, and we're really simple in a way, especially when you're talking in person. You only get so much time to interact with somebody. Those first impressions are really, really lasting, and it's very hard to undo something like that. So if your brand, like my brand is a mix of professional and creative. So I really intentionally, and not artificially, because that's who I am. I'm professional and I'm creative. And I make sure that is embodied in the way I dress, and that my energy that I give out, both with how I dress and how I present myself, is congruent with the energy of my brand and my business, so that the people who are like, oh, I like your vibe, they're the people who, once they start working with me, that vibe is the same, rather than like they get into working with me and I'm a completely different way. And now we're a horrible fit and we're stuck with each other.
So true. So true. And I think that feeds into this question that I hope I pronounce this right. Ejim has asked about tips for brand positioning and building a clear identity. And what you've just said is you are your brand. And so how do you, set yourself apart? Over to you. You'd let them know.
Brand positioning is probably my favorite part of marketing. When we're in this early stage, especially us local business owners and entrepreneurs, it's very sourced from ourselves. It's super, super personal. So we really are our brand. But the caveat to that is it's a segment of who we are, right? I'm also a mom. I have a whole bunch of other personality traits that they're not applicable here. So part of it is it's a lot of self-awareness. Business is an incredible amount of self-awareness. And this is one of the things I like doing with clients, because I'm able to clearly see them. Liz Nicholas is on here, and we have had that conversation where sometimes someone else is better able to see your personality traits than you are. So a lot of the times, if you're struggling to figure out what it is about me that is my brand, if you ask some other people, give me your top 3 character traits you see in me. That will be your brand. That's a really great way to understand your brand positioning when you're at that stage of needing to source it yourself.
Absolutely. That's the questions. Amal has asked for book and podcast recommendations. So I'm going to open that to the whole group for sake of time. My eye is on the clock. So I want to make sure Cheyenne gets through as much as she can, and then we can always do some at the end. But if anyone has recommendations, please go ahead and put them in the chat. But Cheyenne, go ahead. Let's listen.
I actually have a PDF that I'll drop later too that has a whole bunch of book recommendations. I'm a big reader. Okay, let's go next. Here's our homework. Relational selling. Why it's like dating. So selling is icky. Like I said earlier, I was very anti-consumerist and I don't like being manipulated. I don't like being coerced. I don't like having those strings pulled. And I'm going to explain to you now why most of us are like that at this point. And why it's like dating. It's like when you meet somebody, you're out at an event and they slide up to you and they've got all the right moves and all the right lines and they're flattering you and you're stroking your ego. And yet, for some reason, you want nothing to do with them. Intuitively, you just go ick, the same way you feel when someone's trying to sell from you. And what's happening psychologically is that we know they're trying to extract value. We know that what they're saying is not genuine and it's not authentic. And there's just something about us that they've decided they're going to get to, and they're going to use these tactics to get it. It's the exact same way with marketing and selling. And the alternative to that is someone who comes up and they're very genuine and they're very authentic and they listen and they ask us questions and they want to get to know us. And they're just making jokes and we're having a good time and we're being respectful and we're genuinely feeling each other out and be like, you seem to kind of be my kind of person. I wonder if I'd like to get to know you more. Marketing and selling is the exact same way. We live in a post-trust era. This is a little piece. I have a history background as well. And this part really, I find super exciting because the truth is we don't have to be in that ick era of marketing anymore. In fact, it doesn't work, which is why all of you probably go to a business and the moment you feel like you're in a sales pitch, you're like, no, that's a no for me, because we all know it. So one of the interesting things that's happened is that back in the 50s, that's when a lot of our paradigms and frameworks for marketing and sales were developed. That's when it's the Mad Men era, right? Like where we're going to use all these little psychological tricks to create trust from people and to really convince them and motivate them. We're going to give them a sense of urgency. We're going to, like poke all those buttons and stroke their ego. But the reality is that's what, almost 70 years ago now. We've all lived through it, just like the pickup artist, although maybe when we were a little young or naive or it was a different culture for us, we might have fallen for it at the start. Once you become aware that that's what's happening, even if, a part of you does like being told, all these flattering things, the reality is that on a deeper level that this is not somebody I can trust. So the moment someone talks sales or marketing, we actually have a wall that goes up. As a marketer, I think the worst thing that can happen when I meet someone is say, hi, I'm Cheyenne, I'm a marketer, because immediately I see their faces drop. I'm like, no, I swear I'm not that kind of marketer. And it takes me a while to warm them up, but that's the reality that we live in. That's just the culture. We've all been pushed. We live in consumerism. We've all experienced this. It's not something we can get away from, but it is something that we can approach differently. So what we really need to build with our audience is trust. And that's what all these previous things we're talking about, especially authenticity. That's how we build trust, by being genuine and authentic. Even in the fact that we're selling, it is okay to sell. We've developed a product or service because we genuinely know there's value to it. Usually we've developed it for ourselves to start with, our friends and family. We're not selling just to make money. I know the community of We Can, and I know entrepreneurs and local business owners. None of us are getting into business on our own because we're trying to make mad cash. This is not the easy way to a lot of money. We're doing it because we genuinely know there's value in what we have to offer. And that's what we need to be embodying. This is one of the reasons stereotypical business and marketing advice often hits the mark for us, because that can often be done for mass marketing, which is marketing at scale, which is not so much about building trust. It is sometimes about just triggering that instant conversion. And you don't care if that person doesn't come back again, but that's not the context that we're doing business in. So for us, trust is more valuable than ever. And it is the currency of repeat business and referrals. We don't want that one person that we manage to catch and do all the right nudges and psychological tricks with, and we get their $20 and we never see them again. Because at the end of the day, they're like, I didn't actually want that. We want people who know they can trust us. And we want those businesses, those customers that will come back again and again. And even business-wise, that's a much smarter choice, because the cost of a new client or customer is much higher than the cost of recurring ones. So we're going to do a little exercise here. And I want you to read this, listen to me say it. And I want you to really feel in your gut the impact it has on you and what it feels like for you. If you're like, yeah, this sounds really cool. You're like, can you go away now? So this is like a sample social media post. Indulge in the unmatched richness of our premium coffee. Unleash a burst of flavor with our exclusive blend, a must-try for true coffee enthusiasts. Act fast, limited time offer, buy one, get one free. Elevate your mornings now. Hashtag coffee lovers, right? That's like, this is all over social media. I see this everywhere. And if you Google, right, like how to sell on social media, this is the type of stuff that will come up. It'll say sense of urgency, gives them an offer, right? Like use all the adjectives you can find. That is very common, and it's just what's being recommended. But if we go to this example, let's say it's the same coffee shop, this is a different kind of messaging. Explore the diverse world of our handcrafted coffee, thoughtfully sourced by our owner, Heather, from global bean varieties. Until Friday, enjoy buy one, get one free offer. Experience the morning richness of a quality cut with us, right? The vibes of those are completely different. It's literally giving the same information. It's got a promo. It's made sure you're aware of it. We're talking coffee, but it's personalized it. It's much more authentic. Heather, whoever she is, she sounds like she's got some coffee knowledge and she's sourcing coffee. I would love to know what she's doing and what she's picked out. I don't need you to tell me that this is like, I'm going to miss out and I'm going to have FOMO because this is a must try for coffee enthusiasts. I don't want you to tell me who I have to be. I want to know that someone named Heather took the time to pick this out. And I'm kind of interested in seeing the value that she's created with that. This is the difference between old school selling and our more modern version of selling. And this is what people respond to. You will find even yourself after watching this, you'll probably start looking at social media and sales a little differently. And you'll be like, that's why I don't like the vibe of this, which is quite often really unfortunate because there's a lot of businesses I see that I know as the brick and mortar, and I go in and I'm like, wow, what a great store. And I get to know the owners and they're so genuine and they've poured their hearts into this. And then I pull back and look at their social media and I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, it's not lining up and it's doing them a disservice. This happens quite often. We do want to be cognitive when we're talking about conversion pieces. There is a point in time for conversion in marketing and sales, landing pages. You can do an ask on social media. And there are pieces that you want to make sure you put in there. If there is a genuine sense of urgency, like this offer ends on Friday, you want to give them that piece, but you don't need to coerce them or persuade them or push them. You just need to respect that they're intelligent people making their own consumeristic choices and that you are giving them an invitation and an opportunity to come into it. The other piece of this is the reason persuasive messaging, I'll go back here, is so common is because there is a market segment it works on. If this didn't work, it wouldn't happen. But the reality is a lot of us, not even a lot of us, all of us who are developing these type of products and services, we are really talking to an intentional audience base. We're not looking for people who make unconscious consumeristic choices. We develop something because we want people who are making good choices for themselves to buy it. And these are not people who tend to be trigger happy in buying a really quick something because they feel a little nudge from a social media post. These tend to be a market segment that are more conscious, they're more self-aware, and they're really looking to invest in what they're bringing into their lives. So if you use persuasive messaging for them, it will be an immediate turnoff because they feel the manipulation behind this. And nobody who's living consciously wants to be manipulated. We want to be invited and informed. And that's why this type of messaging is so much more important and it does so much more for us. Okay, next I have a video from Chantel Frazier. She's another weekend lady and she embodies relational selling. She doesn't even recognize that she embodies it. It's absolutely incredible. And if anybody is looking for networking, she has a free networking course. If you're looking to learn about that, I would check that out. I've watched it myself. It's really good. It's online. It's quick. And she's going to talk about how it impacts her business. She does an empowered path. She's a thought partner, which I love that word. She came up with it herself. And she helps people find their ideal careers, their ideal jobs, their ideal businesses. And she helps organizations with inclusivity and equity. So here's her video.
Hi, I'm Chantel Frazier, and I'm a military veteran. I'm a mom. I'm an entrepreneur. I started my business when I got out of the military with this idea of speaking and training and writing if I had to. And over the last 11 years, I've realized what that boils down to is that I love helping people find or create their ideal job. So I teach tactics and strategies to help people either create their own job as an entrepreneur or to discover that right employer and go to work for them so that they can live their true authentic life. What I do, or what I've found, is that people prefer to work with people that they trust and that they feel respected by. And when it's reciprocal, right? So I build my Friendly Forces network based on reciprocity and trust and respect. What I do is selling. I think of it as building relationships, and those based on trust and respect and reciprocity. And because I treat people with respect, they learn they can trust me. And then when they're willing to work with a career coach or a business coach, or they want to hire somebody to speak at their organization, then they reach out and say, Chantal, let's chat. And so I don't think of it as, and I know you've taught me about branding and marketing and selling, but I don't think of it as that. I think of it as building my Friendly Forces network. And that's all I have to say about that for now.
That's perfect. And it genuinely is that. Even when we were working together and we were writing your content, and we did have some conversion pieces for your landing page and for your social media, even when we were writing that out, it was never about persuading people, right? We had already presented the value and presented the information they needed to make an informed choice of their own, case studies and everything else. And when we invited them into a conversion, it wasn't about persuading or manipulating. It was just about inviting them to take that relationship one step further if that was the right choice for them. And that was
Cut myself off. So Chantal is like, she's amazing. She so embodies it genuinely that it's not even a question for her, which is why I wanted to put her in the video. And you do want to make sure you're very clear and attuned with your audience about the benefits of your product or service. So you're not shy about screaming the value, but you don't need to be artificial about it. You want to be very authentic, and you want to be respectful, and you want to build trust. That's the idea behind this. So your homework, I want you to look at your website, your social media posts, your emails, anything that you're using to communicate with your audience. And I want you to see if there's any place you've been using sales gimmicks or persuasive messaging. And I want you to start considering instead how you can use your content to build trust with your audience, how you can start looking to embody your values and all of the rest that build the authenticity into your content, instead of really focusing on how can I convince people to buy from me. There's a time and place for that, but the more and more you can build that trust and you can share that authenticity, the more you will actually find people will buy from you. Any questions?
I haven't seen any up to this point, and that's there's just been a lot of comments. I know we have 10 minutes left, so I want to make sure to give you time for that. But I just love that there's been comments in the chat about this idea, going through your feed or your newsletter, frankly, or any piece of content you put out, and say, am I inviting people in? If you're not, you might want to reword. Like, is this an invitation, or is this a trick? Is this a ploy? Yeah, or you just forget the trick and ploy. Is this an invitation? If not, reword.
It's a relationship. Genuinely see it. The consumer psychology is one of the most incredible things to study. And even though we cognitively understand this as a business, in reality, it's following the same mechanisms as relationship building. So when you are building a relationship with someone, you don't say, hey, date me now. I'm amazing. Urgency, like the limited time offer.
Limited time offer
off the market. Exactly, right? You send an invitation.
Yeah.
And then if they choose it, that's great. If they don't, then it's not right for them. And maybe it will be at some point. Maybe you need to show more value. Exactly. Right. Okay.
Go ahead.
Actions. This is our like why it's like anything we do. If we just watch this workshop and I've opened up your awareness and helped you maybe move into conscious incompetence, that's great. But what I really want you to do is to start taking actions. Actions help us overcome hesitation, and taking decisive actions towards your marketing and marketing your business, even in the face of uncertainty or the feeling of not being fully prepared. We develop confidence by doing. Like, I am as much a perfectionist as the next person. It's definitely one of my previous strong character traits. And that desire to shore up as much knowledge in our head as a defense mechanism. We don't get good at something until we're doing it. The knowledge is not going to be what makes a difference for us. It's really going to come from us taking these key actions. And just a little bit of overview on this, it helps us avoid analysis paralysis. We avoid the common pitfall of overthinking, which can lead to inaction, and focus on the importance of moving forward. Forward progress is more important than being perfect. Progress over perfection. Taking action, even if small or imperfect, is crucial for growth and learning. Do not worry about getting this right. If I showed you guys my stuff from 5 years ago, I probably should have put it on a slide just to really give an example of like, you will progress. If you don't progress, something wrong is happening. So don't expect to have it perfect from the start. Incremental steps. Start with small, manageable marketing actions that can build momentum over time. If everything I've suggested here feels completely overwhelming, pick one, set the intention to get that in, and then move on to the next one. Build it up if you need to do it in incremental steps. Adaptability. It's important to be adaptable and willing to learn from the outcomes of these actions. You are not locked in. Do not get worried that if I set this and now I have to go like this and I don't want to be restrained, and what if all these other ideas come up? You are not locked in. These give you guardrails. It gives you boundaries. And if the right thing comes up, you have something to discern it against. You now have a set standard and you can evaluate different options. And if you're like, okay, well, I'm really getting a lot of this feedback that this content pillar that I thought was going to work is just falling flat, but this one's working really well. Be open to change. This is where I want you to start with your key actions. It's just going to summarize the little homework I've given you guys. I want you to look at what stage of business you're in and what your business goal is and what marketing strategies you can invest in. I want you to book an annual, monthly, and weekly marketing meeting with yourself. Get ready to put on your marketing hat, make yourself a cup of tea or some coffee, enjoy that time. I want you to create a simple brand guide and follow it. Actually implement it, make it a crucial part, a foundational part of when you create posts, websites, email graphics, when you're writing your emails, anything like that. And then I want you to find ways to use your social media, your email, and your website content to build trust rather than to persuade your audience. And that's it. That's the ball game, guys.
That was a good ball game.
That was fun.
That was a good ball game. All right. Any final questions? We do have a few moments. So Susan, I just had noted that the presentation will be on the YouTube channel later today, so you can get the whole presentation. And if you, actually maybe Cheyenne, could you, put up that slide or at least put your contact information again into the Zoom chat. Not everybody grabbed it. And so any questions as we are final? Oh, here we go. Wendy's asking, she has booked her monthly dates in her calendar. Do you have any samples or tools for an annual plan?
Oh, hold on 1 second. I'm just navigating around my windows here. So that's my contact. Yeah, I do actually, and this is going to sound like a sales pitch, but it's an invitation. I am actually launching a 4-week marketing plan intensive next week or the week after, where it's going to be 4 hours on Zoom together once a week. And I have a guide and we're going to walk through each step of building a marketing plan. And then I'm going to do a one-on-one consultation so that I can really dig in and dig deep. I'm seeing all the comments now. Aw, so lovely. So yeah, I have that if anybody is interested. If not, like, you can Google marketing plans. It's, I would say, err to the side of simplicity rather than trying to get everything. It's much more important that you focus and you make it manageable for yourself.
Excellent advice. Just to clarify, that 4 hours, is that 4 hours all at once or 4 hours over time? Okay, good.
1 hour a week so that we can really, I give homework. Apparently I should have been a teacher. I like to give homework. So we'll do it step by step for an hour at a time where we get to meet, and then you get to go off and like sit with yourself and be like, okay, here's what Cheyenne said to do. I'm going to do a bit of my research. Yeah, it'll be broken down like that.
Great opportunity. Yeah. And that one-on-one is so key when it gets, because Cheyenne and we have all talked about very general things today, and you all have some very specific businesses that, sometimes it's important to drill down into the specifics and have your specific questions answered. Speaking of questions, we have a few more minutes. I just don't want to overlook if anybody has, sorry. Oh, trying to scroll down to that question. It keeps going away. Okay. I think that, yep, they're just asking for your contact information. Maybe your email one more time.
Yeah, I'm gonna give me a link then.
I think that's it. You've given everyone a lot to think about. And I think that that's exactly what's going to happen. The homework begins now, folks. And I think it's good. These training sessions are great, but they're only as effective as the time that we then put put into taking those key actions. So you have Cheyenne's contact info. I encourage you to reach out to her to ask further questions. Follow her on social, which you can find anywhere on her website even. Thank you so much, Cheyenne, for a great session today. Always a pleasure. And I just want to note, Cheyenne mentioned earlier that she's a part of a mastermind that we're doing right now. She actually also helps to coordinate the other early stage one for us. Our mastermind applications open up on Monday. All right, so watch your newsletter. Those of you, there's a bunch in the group who have been asking when the next mastermind is coming. It will run from January to June. And of course, all of everything Weekend does is free for you. So if you're an eligible client, then just check that newsletter out. There's 2 great opportunities on Monday. I wanted to add that. Thanks, everyone. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you, everyone. This was amazing.
Bye.